Hello boys and girls, and welcome to another episode of the Claywright Workshop. I bet you can't guess what we're going to do today, all right? There's a hint here on the table. What you see right here before me is a wonderful example of the Green Man. It is an ancient symbol of man's oneness with nature. Almost every civilization has had one. They've been known by many, many names. It was originally called the Green Man by Lady Raglan in 1939 in a magazine called The Folklore Artist. All right, here is another example right beside that one, and luckily this one is green, so as not to confuse you. The Green Man, of course, could come in any colors, and they would age quite often, so bronze would tarnish, and the white ones on the tombstones out in the graveyards would get the green all around the face. Now you'll notice it's a man's face with greenery growing around the face. There are three different styles of the Green Man. This is called the Foliage Green Man. There was one called, I believe it was the Gorging Green Man, because greenery came out of his mouth. And there's one, and I can't make up stuff this good, guys. Look it up in the book on the website, The Green Man. It's called the Bloodsucker. Is that a name or not? And it had to do with greenery coming out of the orifices like the eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. Different cultures did it for many different reasons. Known by different names. Puck, the Shakespearean character, Midsummer Night's Dream, was a green man. Even Robin Hood was based off the Green Man. Now I have other examples here around me. I'm going to remove the pot. That's a wonderful way to do the Green Man, because horticulturists like the Green Man because it represents Mr. Mother Nature. Now, as you notice, each time I do one, there's a couple examples right here on the table. I'll go side by side so you can see both of them right quick. And maybe we can come in real tight, and you'll see how they're different. Every time I do one is different because each face is different, and the one we do today will look similar, but not exactly like these two samples. All right. As usual, I'll put this one over here so maybe you can get a look at it later. We're going to go over here. We're going to go over here, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do. All right. Step one is going to be to make a square slab of clay. Then, hopefully, and I'll switch over to black so maybe you guys can see that better. When we make the square slab of clay, I'm going to come back and I'm going to cut a hole in the center of it. All right? As you'll notice on the back side of these, they're hollow on the back. So I'll let you see that first so you'll know what I'm talking about. We're going to cut this hole. So that's what we're going to do first, and I'll do that as quickly as I can. I switch over here to my favorite, good old white earthenware clay. Open the bag. Now, as long as you leave the bag closed, the clay will stay workable for literally years. But once air begins to get to the clay, obviously it begins to dry out. We take the clay here, and I'm going to take my trusty rolling pin. It looks like a pin, you roll it. I have heard some of the women in my class call this thing a husband persuader. I don't know why it got that name, but I call it a rolling pin. And I'm trying to get the clay about the thickness of a slice of white bread. Now, I know I repeat myself. It's one of my few bad habits. It's kept me out of sainthood 2 years in a row. And I ran into one of my fans and had seen several of my shows. And when he saw me, he just made the joke, the thickness of a slice of white bread, teasing me that was a sentence I repeat quite often. And I'm afraid to repeat it because it's true. That is the thickness that we make the clay. All right, here we go. You see the thickness, okay? I've prepared a cardboard background here. Cardboard is good. It helps the clay to breathe. And I'm using a pothead over here as a tool container. Y'all may have noticed my neat little tool container here. It's a smaller pothead. And now I trim away the excess. And in just a matter of seconds, hopefully less than a minute, there we go. I've done the step one. Now, I'm going to cut a round circle here in the center, as I showed you on the completed project, And that is so that I can put an armature inside to build the face around, okay? Now, luckily, I'm so prepared, the Boy Scout that I am. I have a plastic bag here, and I'm going to use paper towels to make what artists call an armature. I guess probably decorators would call it a pillow, but it's nothing but a plastic bag with this paper in it, okay? And I'm going to put that right in the center where I have cut this hole, okay? I guess that was easy enough. Now, step 2, I've got to cover this. So here I go. Cut a slab of clay. Veterans know how to do that. I take my rolling pin. Now, this clay has already been wonderfully kneaded. All right, I love that word, K-N-E-E-D, knead. Anyone that's familiar with the kitchen knows about kneading dough. That's a strange sentence. You know about kneading dough. I guess everybody knows about that. All right, but kneading meaning that you work the dough and got the air bubbles out. And this is pretty because it doesn't have any air bubbles in it. You may have noticed a slice of bread. They say it's been whipped 1,000 times. And some have little air bubble pockets in it, and some don't. This is wonderful stuff. Now, I'm going to score or scratch around the edge here. And I'm going to wet it with water. And obviously, water will get into that groove. And the water and clay together will make something called slip, a little bit of moisture. Now, I'm going to connect this. Working pretty good so far. This really neat little tool here is going to connect it down. Luckily, the camera doesn't get too close, or this clay would splatter, the water and the clay together would splatter back into the lenses like it just did my face. So everything I own is either green or khaki. All right. Now, the human face is almond-shaped. A little bigger at the top, narrowing toward the bottom, and it's a hatchet shape. So I've done a fair to middling job preparing this. Now, those of you, and I teased earlier, my fans, but people that have been watching the shows, quite often what you learned one show carries over to the next, just like in cooking or painting or sports programs. So, what you learned, we did sun faces on one of our earlier shows, and this is going to be similar, but a little more complicated. Okay, meanwhile, I'm going to go back over to the drawing board and show you I'm ready for the step 2. All right. We've done the square. We've cut the hole. Now we have the clay around it. What we're going to try to do now is I'm going to work a horizon line across the face. I'm going to divide it in the middle the way we always do. And then the bottom of the nose, a line for the mouth, and some of you see the face shaping up already. All right, then those are my primary shapes, number 2. Then I'll come back with the secondary shapes. Now, this will only take literally a moment. All right, I hope you guys can see this. The angle looks pretty good. I think that you can. Okay, here I go. I'm going to divide this in the middle, and then I'm going to come back over it this way. And I'm going to hold that up so you guys can see it good. Luckily, the gift of dyslexia, I'm working upside down backwards. All right, it's a gift. Okay, let's see how good I am at this. I may have talked too much. All right, how could that have happened? Okay, on this line, I go in, and as you can see, all I have done is create a right angle. All right, come over here, and I'm going to do this again. Okay, I'm going to create a right angle. All right, those of you still awake are probably catching on to me already. See here? Okay, now halfway down, this is on the halfway mark, halfway between here and here, just like math, this is a half, I'm going to cut in half again and press up. Okay, there is my nose already. Eye sockets, nose. Now, the lower quarter here, third actually, I am going to break up into 1 1, 2, 3 parts. Here I go. Now, using this very, very simple tool, I'm going to move over here a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. And there we go. I've broke it up into thirds. 1, 2, 3. Okay? Do you see the face forming already, guys? Piece of cake. Now I'm going into my secondary shapes. These were primary. Forehead, cheeks, nose. This is the mouth. Now I'm going to my secondary shapes. Okay? That's going to be starting the lips. Okay. Now I'm going to hold this up here. Watch it come flying off the board so you guys can see me. I'm actually being dishonest. I'm holding it up so I can see it. Okay, here we go. Halfway down between the nose and the outside of the face, that's about halfway. I'm not too big into math. I'm going to put a groove using the edge of this tool like a knife blade. I'm going to put a groove right there. Do the same thing on the other side. All right? Put a little notch here in the center. And there are my lips. That was so easy, it's almost embarrassing. It's like a magician giving away all my secrets. Here I go. Now here comes the lower lip. Again, using this tool like a bulldozer, I'm touching the edge. If it were a knife, that would be the edge. And I'm going to just go in there, and like a bulldozer, I'm going to push up a little bit. All right, excellent. There's my lower lip. Now, while I've got it here, I'm going to put the brow on. I'm going to use my thumb. I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to create an eye socket so the eyes can go back into the head and not stick out of the head like cartoon characters and some of those really ugly dogs that have those bulging eyes. Okay, like somebody tried to inflate them or something. Okay, here we go. There's my eye sockets. Now, might as well, while I got you guys here, using one of my favorite tools here. These pins are wonderful. This is my show vest when I go out and do shows around the country. I use this pin all day long as a sculpting tool, and then I let people sign their names to checks, and they still work. It's amazing. All right, here we go. There's the nose. Okay, easy enough, guys? Now the fun begins. Okay, and there's my face. I got all my necessary parts. Meanwhile, back to the drawing board. I'm going to switch over to green. Let's see if you guys can see this. Okay. We just put in the nose and the eye sockets, the philtrum, the upper lip. Upper lip is always shown as dark because the light comes from above, like the sunlight or lights in your house. It goes in. There's our chin. These are our cheek lines. Okay. Now, we're going to do the leaves. Guys, this is so much fun. Now, you got to watch me close. You got to watch this really close. This is too easy. Now, looking at my own face, like hair is shingles, one going over the other, like shingles on the roof, I'm going to do the same thing. And I'll hold this one up so you can see. I'm going to do these lower leaves first and come up, starting at the bottom and working my way to the top. Okay? I'm going to take this small amount of clay here, and I'm going to roll what I call mustache. I use that term. There's probably an actual physics term, but I relate to this, mustache. See, fat in the middle, skinny on both ends. That guarantees me, with my bad math, 2 equal pieces, okay? Now, I cut that in 2. I have 2 equal pieces. Strangely enough, my students have the hard time with this, but I'll demonstrate it nice and slow. I'm using these 3 fingers to grab this with. You see that? That's pretty darn easy, right? Now, I'm going to throw it at the table at a 45-degree angle. Perfect. I'm going to do it again. I don't know why, but when I'm teaching young boys, and even some of the women, they miss the table and hit me. I don't know, they're just bad angles. Here I go again. Now, what I want to happen is for these 2 to be the same size, and that's pretty darn close. Now, over here, there's a very simple tool. it's a broom handle type stick, got a point on this end, and I've taken a knife and I put serration marks. So when I come down this is a leaf. Remember, this is the Greenman, ancient symbol of man's oneness with nature. They were in the Knights of the Templar churches, all right? You see that? See the grooves in it? Now, I'm going to start in the center and work out. And this makes a wonderful, believable leaf. I'm starting in the center, and I'm working out. Sir Gawain, one of the Knights of the Round Table, went out looking for the Greenman. They even said that Robin Hood was one of the Greenmen legends. You know, he dressed in green. Bacchus, the god of wine, is considered a green man because he has the grape leaves all around his face. Poseidon, the god of storms, is considered a green man. He has a seaweed beard. They're in most cathedrals in Europe, you know, along there with gargoyles and other symbols. All right? Do you see the two leaves? Okay. Now remember, those veterans, I'll call you, those that have been watching this series, I'm going to put water on the face. Water in this situation will work like glue. This is a little tricky. The human body is very symmetrical. It's the same on both sides, unless you're Quasimodo, you know, with the one hump. So I'm going to try to get this the same on both sides. That's a little tricky. Here I go. I'm going to put it on the cheek, the big drooping mustache. Here I go. Have it on the cheek. Not too bad. Bring it over. I'm actually liking that. Now, my students will constantly tell me what I already know. That's why I'm so smart, I guess. I'm told constantly what I don't know. And if you do one side, it's pretty easy, but getting the other side to match. That's the joke that I make, the joy of dyslexia. Okay, see, that goes out, it comes in, and then it kicks back out. I'm upside down backwards, but I think this is work. Hey, that's not too bad. I like that. Now, again, I'm going to use this pen and go back and distinguish the individual leaves. This works a dual purpose. It secures that leaf down. Now, leaves were not made by engineers. Each one is unique, like fingerprints. And so the fact these leaves are a little bit unique, and not exactly the same like a man-made item would be, is okay with me. All right, that seems to be, let's see, I want to come out. I think that's called recurve. Okay, how's that looking? That working pretty good? Okay, looking good. All right, now I'm going to put the eyes in. This is another trick. We'll use it over and over again. I'm going to roll a ball using counterclockwise motions of my hands. I'm going to tear it in two, so I end up with two equal balls. Make those round. And what I want to do is I want the eyes to fit in the head. Ooh, not too shabby. And there's an old artist trick that there's room for a third eye in between your other two. So if there's not room for a third eye, your eyes are too close together. That's just about right, okay? Now, here I go again. I'm going to move a little quicker now because of the restraints of time. That's one of the few three-syllable words I know. I hope I used it correctly. All right. Now, there's the mustache again. You know this trick. Tear it in two. Oh, this one's longer. Good, I like it. We'll throw it down. I'm going to use another stick I like. Same concept. I'm going to go right down the center. And if I go down both sides, it creates a ridge, like in the middle of a stem of the leaf. I start in the middle and I work my way out, and I put a little more pressure each time that I do this. So it's fat in the center, And the edges of the leaf will be nice and delicate and thin, and the centers will be strong. Excellent. I'm pleased with that. Now, a lot of I have the blessing of teaching a lot of different students, young and not young, and each person has their own learning style. So there are people that are scared that they're going to color outside the line, and there are people that are scared they're going to color inside the line because they're different. The rules don't apply to them. They are the exception. So a lot of those people, right-brainers, have a little trouble with making both sides exactly the same. Their creativity is always on. They want to make everything different. Here I go. Let's not forget anything. A little water on there. And I'm going to overlap. I'm going to cover the cheek. I'm going to come right over the top of my other one so I can get a little movement going. Ooh, I like that. I like movement. I like movement. All right? I'm afraid I'm going to have to turn it around so I can see what I'm doing. I'm always the most surprised person in the room to see what I'm doing. Oh, this looks good. Okay. Ooh, hey, oh man, this is kicking. This is kicking. I'm having fun. This is working. Now I'm going to come back like I showed you before, and I'm going to lock in these leaves. Little neat tool here. I'll lock in a couple. Traditionally, and like I told you earlier, my little bits of trivia about the Greenman, they have leaves and vines growing out of the orifices of their face, eyes, nose, mouth, etc. That's called the disgorging one. Sometimes they spew them. I don't like to do that. That's a little gross for me. If you can imagine something too gross for me, that's it. Okay, and I'm going to switch over and do another type of leaf now. One of the things when I was researching the Greenman, I found out that the leaves would be different on each culture, Sumerian, Mycenaean, Roman, Egyptian, etc. And they would be like the leaves in their country, such as palm leaves in Egypt and oak leaves in England. I'm going to make this an oak leaf. I'm going to throw it down and make it wider. Yes, nice and wide. All right. And this time, I'm just going to take my pen and come up like that. That is so simple. Just coming up like that. This makes an oak leaf. I hope you guys saw that. I did it very, very quickly. Time is always the deal. The water is still glistening on here. So here's the oak leaf down between the eye. Oh, I like that. Ooh, I like the oak leaf. That is working. This is so therapeutic. Some of my students have art degrees and they miss doing art. They had to get real jobs so they can make a living. And then other students have never had art before and they're just discovering everything for the first time. So I have always enjoyed teaching. I'd enjoy it more if the politicians would get less involved. And each person, when they discover this, it makes them happy, and when my students are happy, I'm happy. Nice oak leaf. Now, as usual, when I've been teaching faces, I'll explain the clay around the eyes or the eyelids, always the most important. Now the eyelids are smaller, as hopefully you can see on some of the examples, the little pot here on my right, or the little Greenman, and I'll stick him up here so perhaps y'all can see him better. I'm going to make it delicate around the eyes. You already know this trick. I roll it, make two the same size. I use the first tool I can come to. Here come the lower eyelids. Now there's a great book one of my students brought to class called Nightmares in the Sky. And Stephen King wrote the intro, the horror science fiction writer. Here I go. And it shows Greenmen on all the buildings here in New England, Chicago, New York. Did I get dyslexic working for me again? Did I get two right ones? I declare. Sometimes I wish I was smart instead of good looking. I tell you, get things mixed up. All right, not bad. And now I'm going to come back here and make those delicate. Oh, I like it. Okay. Now, of course, only having so much time to educate or entertain is kind of hard to do a project of this magnitude. correctly. I'll finish this up at my studio tomorrow. All right, now here comes my favorite part, upper eyelids. You already know this, I'm being redundant, I'm good at that. Roll the mustache, tear it in two, point it on both ends, throw it down, that was a good bouncing one there. Throw it down at a 45-degree angle, make sure they match, they're about the same. This time I'll try to get it working so I don't get dyslexic here. All righty, here I go. Quite often I'll make two left ones or two right ones. Okay. That was, what was the bad joke many years ago when a guy had on a pair of mixed match socks. Somebody told him his socks didn't match. That was dumb. He had a black one and a red one. So they had never seen a pair of socks that mismatched and that ugly. And he said, that's nothing. I have another pair at home just like them. So it's kind of like that. Sometimes I'll get two left ones or two right ones here. This time, hopefully, I did it right. Here I go. Lock that in. Turn it back that way. Get a little curly Q working with it. This is so strange, working upside down backwards. They said Benjamin Franklin was one of the first self-made millionaires here in the country, and of course he was in the printing business, and that he was dyslexic. And it helped him because printers used to have to print backwards, upside down, and it helped. All right, here I go. Oh, hey, this is working. Why am I always the most surprised person in the room when this stuff starts working out? Okay, now I only have a very short time, so I'm going to give it the goatee. All right, really big one here. There's enough water. And this is probably as much as we can get done this week on this guy. I hope you guys will have the courage to try some of this. I know I run into a lot of potters at shows, and they like to put these faces on their pots, the ones we've been doing here, the animals and other things. We did dragons here a couple of weeks ago. We did giraffes and frogs and other really interesting animals. And they've told me they've started putting those on their pots, and it made it more interesting. They can add sculpture and pottery together. Nice combination. Originally, on the pyramids in the Parthenon, sculpture was painted, so you could have painting and sculpture together. Okay. There we go. Now, this one, what I would love to do is come back and put more delicate detail. These are the coarse pieces that I've done. And I'm going to do a little review, the ex-school teacher in me. I always think it's good to review. So we're going to go back and I'm going to tell you what I did. So tell you what I'm going to do it, and tell you what I did. So here I go. I'm going to move over to the blackboard here and just check for understanding, as it were. Okay. Square. We cut the face. We did the face shapes, and then we started working the leaves. All right? That's all the time that we have for this week. Hope you guys will tune back in next week when we're going to do chicken pots. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.